you.
Good morning. I'm Robin Roberts, co-anchor of Good Morning America. Great to be here. Do you feel the love?
Yes,
do you
I
feel
do.
the love?
I feel the love. It's incredible and inspiring and empowering to be here with all of you supporting incredible women.
You wanted to dance upon this stage because you have us before. We were backstage and she was like, it's going to be odd not to actually dance.
The stage.
Well, if you feel like breaking out a dance at any point, we will not object. But what is it about ballet, and what gave rise to your love for it?
You know, I think that my initial impulse as a child was this visceral reaction I had to music. And that was to move. I never was interested in singing. My instinct was just movement, and that's always been kind of this comfort zone for me, especially as a child. Growing up in unstable environments a lot of the time. One of 6 children with a single mother, constantly moving, sometimes not having a home or food to eat, and something that was just so sacred in me time that I didn't have to share with my 5 siblings was when I could just put on some Mariah Carey and choreograph. And then when I was introduced to classical ballet at 13 years old at my Boys and Girls Club, they had a program that was trying to go into underprivileged communities and find talent, and I happened to be one of those students. But the moment that I stepped into the ballet studio, I think that was the moment that I came alive for the first time in my life, and I felt powerful, and I felt beautiful, and I felt like I had a voice, and I feel like I just started to blossom then.
At the age of 13, that's considered a little bit late to be entering ballet.
Very late, yes.
So how challenging was for you, because you're so humble when you talk about you're saying the unstable upbringing. Girl, you went through it.
Yeah.
I mean, you with your siblings and not knowing if you had enough to eat, and your mother doing the best that she could. I mean, so how when all this and you're in this environment and you want to dance?
Yeah.
How do you reconcile all that?
I was very fortunate to be kind of plucked from my Boys and Girls Club by an incredible woman who owned the local ballet studio with her husband, Cynthia Bradley and Patrick Bradley. And they kind of kept me in this very protective bubble. I ended up moving in with them and their young son at the time, so that I could really just focus on catching up on all of this training that I had missed out on. Most dancers, start between the ages of 3 and 7, and that's so that they can mold the body before you hit puberty and really shape it and just get it to be second nature, so that when you become a professional, you can become an artist. So, I never felt like it wasn't possible. My goal was always to dance for American Ballet Theatre and be on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera House, and I was also protected in that they never really mentioned or said anything about the fact that I was a black girl and that there weren't very many of me in the ballet world. And I feel like not having that distraction allowed me to really just focus on my training.
And how were you able to do that? Because we're the great choreographer and
George Balanchine.
Balanchine, who this was his house. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember a statement from him, and he said the perfect ballerina, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He said the perfect ballerina skin is the color of a peeled apple.
Yes.
Okay. And I was like, I know, really? So think about that the next time you peel an apple. But for you to be who you are in an environment, like you said, you don't see many people still, such as yourself. So how were you able to, especially as a young teenager, just fight through that?
So again, I felt like that wasn't something that I was really conscious of. It wasn't brought to my attention during those really vital years of my training from the age of 13 to 17. I moved to New York, I think like the day after I graduated high school, and joined American Ballet Theatre. And that was kind of when it all hit me. It was like I was thrust into this world. I was on my own. I was expected to be an adult and a professional, and I walked into, stepped into a company that was 80 dancers, and I was the only black woman, and I was the only black woman for over a decade, and it just hit me like, what am I doing? This used to be the only place I felt like I was me, and I belonged, and all of a sudden I'm this, odd black swan out. And, and it was a couple years into my professional career that these incredible black women just started, like these angels started floating into my life.
Who?
The first was Victoria Rowell, who's an actress who's been on soap operas, and she actually was a classical ballerina before she became an actress, and she was in American Ballet Theatre's studio company. And she approached me when I was in Hollywood performing, and she invited me to her home, and it was the first time that I felt like, wow, like I can see myself through someone who's been in this position before, and that's succeeding. And I feel like that's all it takes, especially for a young person, to have that visual representation, to know that anything is possible.
And backstage, you all should know this, there was a young group of women, a little girl, I would say young women, girls, met her in the green room. And if you could have seen Jessica, are you in here right now? Jessica, the way, yeah, the way, and you could tell Jessica, and she was looking at you and like, you're real, and you look like me. You now, like how you talked about those young, and you get a little weepy when you think about it.
It's like there's not a moment that I don't, because I know how powerful it is to have representation. And it's literally changed the path of my life and my career, by having people to look up to, that I could look up to, that are setting an example for me. And yeah, it's incredible, and it's powerful, and it's that simple. And for me, like, I've never wanted to be a celebrity, I feel like it's so important for me to be real for these young people, and to go to these communities and be accessible, so that they know that it's possible for them.
Exactly, and what you say about representation. You see, Misty, that's what we, your authenticity. You're so transparent, and that just makes us just, love you that much more. And I know that you're working in making it available to more, that there's a program that you're a part of.
Yes.
And it includes the Boys and Girls
Yes.
Club. Exactly.
Yes. There's a diversity initiative that I helped to start with the former CEO of American Ballet Theatre, Rachel Moore. It's called Project Plie. And they really kind of took, kind of my background and based this diversity initiative around that structure of, going into boys and girls clubs all over the country, and, training local teachers from these communities in the ABT, like certified curriculum, so that they're giving these children that don't have the means and the access, training that students are getting here in New York City, as well as reaching out to dance teachers and getting more diversity when it comes to the teachers, so that students can see themselves represented in every part of the ballet world, as well as behind the scenes, and yeah, it's doing very well.
Yeah, there's so many facets to it. I mean, there's only one part that we see, and a lot of people who were not familiar with you really became familiar with you with the Under Armour commercial.
Yeah.
That was so dynamic, because not only your skin color was different than ballerinas that we had seen before, but your body, I mean, the curves and the strength and the athleticism and that. So
Yeah.
do you think that you have transformed, that you've changed some, how people look at ballet in some ways?
Yes, I do. I'm forever grateful that Under Armour and Kevin Plank really took a chance, by putting a ballerina, on this platform next to these, elite athletes. And I feel like this is what all dancers have always wanted, is that same respect for people to be educated, especially in America, and understand all that it takes to be a ballerina. And it takes even more hard work because we have to make it look effortless. And, we can't just go out there and grunt and, run into people. And
You could.
it wouldn't be very entertaining, I think. To be able to have Under Armour as a platform to not be seen in a tutu, but to be seen as an athlete as well as an artist, and to be able to see my muscles and strength, I think changed a lot of people's minds as to how they thought ballerinas, their training program and how they look. But what I have to say about the body type is that ballerinas have existed from the beginning of time with a variety of bodies. In the beginning, you look at these Degas paintings, and they were very soft and full, and it's evolved and changed. The ballerina's body has with the choreography that we're doing. It's much more athletic now. But there are white women that have bodies like me, or that are bigger, that have larger chests, that have more muscles, and they're not told they don't belong. And so that's why I feel like it's important to decipher the language that's being used with Black and brown dancers, and get people to recognize and acknowledge that it's an acceptable way of saying you don't belong because of your skin color.
Oh my goodness, and I'm glad that you phrased it like that, because there was all these always like code words and things like that, but we know what it really means. It's taken a toll on your body.
Yes.
I mean, there were a couple of years ago, not that long ago, doctors were saying, because you had, 6
Stress fractures.
stress fractures. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm 35, and it's getting
She's
harder.
35 years old. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Oh my.
It of course gets harder and harder the older you get, but then, the artistry and your life experiences are so much more full and rich. So, it's this balance. But every dancer experiences the injuries that professional athletes experience. And I had a very severe injury. I had 6 stress fractures in my tibia. I ended up having a plate screwed in to my shin. And I was told by many doctors before the surgery that, it just wasn't going to happen. I was never going to dance again, and if I did, I wouldn't be able to get back to where I was. And so I found the one doctor that told me that I would dance again. And he, he's done the same surgery on football players and basketball players. And and I'm here, and I'm working every day and through the pain, but I love what I do, and I'm so blessed and fortunate to get to do what I love for a living and be a representation on the stage.
We're blessed to be able to watch you do what it is that you love so much. And so in the time that we have remaining, and you met many young people backstage earlier, there's this feeling that when you have reached a level of success, as you have and other people have, that when young people see you, they're like, oh, well, you must never be fearful. You must never have felt the fear.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
What do you say to them who, whatever dream that they have for themselves that they want to attain?
Yeah, I feel like it's important, being in this position and having the platforms that I do, to be honest and open and to be a human. I'm not a robot, and though, people look at dancers and expect them to be perfect every time they step onto the stage, I want to be real and honest to young people that, just because you stumble or you're told no, it doesn't mean that you can't continue to try and find the right place for you and where you're going to be accepted. So it's important for me to embrace the positive reviews and words as well as the negative, because I think you can learn from both, and not really take either to heart. But that it's important to not let these things get to you. And I've had this experience, especially with social media. I know it's so hard to be a young person in this day and age. I have no idea what it would have been like had I had social media when I was a a young girl. But to be able to kind of sift through and remind yourself that you don't know these people and they don't know you, and to surround yourself with people that love you and care about you and are going to support you.
That famous phrase, thank you. Yeah. That famous saying, what other people think of me is none of my business. And that's how you have to look at it. You know, what other people think, it's none of my business.
Yeah.
So what's next? I mean, you've been Broadway, you've done so many different things, author, actor. So what's next for you?
American Ballet Theatre spring season opens May 16th, I think it is, mid-May, just across the pond over here at the Metropolitan Opera House for 2 months. So I'll be performing every incredible role that I've ever dreamed of. You know, Don Quixote and Giselle and the Bayadere and Swan Lake and Romeo and Juliet and Firebird. So there's a lot of ballets if you want to come see and support. I have, the Disney Nutcracker movie, The Nutcracker in the Four Realms, that's coming out in November. Yeah, and so, it's exciting to be, to have ballet captured on film, and I'm just excited for everyone to see it.
So with all that you have going on, still ballet is at the center of it all?
Yes. That's something that I've had to explain a lot to people, that they think like, oh, I'm doing all of these things, I must be sacrificing, being in class or, what I'm putting into my craft. And it's like every incredible, partner that I've had, whether it be Seiko or Under Armour or Estee Lauder, the first thing they learn about me is that I can't have a 6 a.m. shoot because I have to be in ballet class before the shoot. And so, they've really worked around, my schedule and my priority. And, the sacrifices I make is that I don't always get enough sleep, and I'm not, I don't hang out with friends on a Friday night. And, but, when I'm 40 or 42 and I retire, I'll be able to do all of those amazing things.
Oh, 42. Oh, my goodness. I know. Oh. But I love how she says, I don't have time to hang out with my friends on a Friday night. She was just hanging out with Diane Van Furstenberg on a Friday night last night, and Sonia Sotomayor. So yes, but I understand what you're saying. Women in the world, it's great to be a woman in the world right now, isn't it?
Yes. It's so inspiring, and the event last night, the DVF Awards, and to just see the impact I think that women are having on the world right now, and just how powerful we are and how important our voices are, and to see such strength represented in so many different fields and with different platforms. And I think that the main thing that we have to remember is that we're sisters, and that we need to remember to support one another. Like, I think that's so important. And I think what I'm learning from this moment, and that I hope that it's not something that fades.
Yes, it can't be a moment, it has to be a movement. And I'm glad what you said, and thank you, Misty, and the Diane Carroll and the other women that have been in your life and that have helped you. You are in turn helping so many with just being your authentic, beautiful self.
Thank you
Misty
so much.
Copeland.